Good morning, everyone. Thanks for the warm welcome. There we go. This is a painting of, you may recognize it, it's the new Hamilton Farmers Market and Hamilton Public Library, right downtown on York Boulevard. And I biked by it this morning on a misty ride to campus. And it's also the location where we met for the McMaster Discovery Program in the Hamilton Public Library of the second floor Dundas room. And on October 15th, in the fall, 2011, marked our very first class. So we all sat in a circle in the Dundas room, myself as the coordinator, the professor, 4 undergraduate students from Artside, who were the student support team, as well as about 20 students, adult students from Hamilton, who had been accepted into this very first program that we were running. So as you've heard, the McMaster Discovery Program offers a free university-level humanities course to adults living in the community. And the idea is to provide a learning opportunity for people in Hamilton who have experienced barriers to higher learning opportunities for whatever reason, often financial, maybe health reasons or family reasons. But what they do love is learning, and what they do have is ideas. So the Discovery Program tried to bring a great opportunity to people in Hamilton, and it was also supposed to be a learning experience for McMaster to kind of bridge the gap between us as an institution and the greater city of Hamilton. After that first class, one of the students emailed me, and she told me the story of stone soup, which some of you may have heard before. It's a pretty popular traditional story. You can go find a book in the library or look it up on the internet, but the basic gist of it is that there's this village, and these strangers come to the village and they have a pot, and they have stones in the pot, and they're going to be making soup. And most of the villagers thought that what they were doing was kind of strange and didn't really pay much attention to them, but one little girl was curious and was like, "What are you making?" And they said, "I'm making some soup." But there were only stones in it, and they said it would be a lot better if we had some spices. So she went and got some spices from her home. And little by little, more people in the village started to contribute to the soup, and it ended up being an absolutely incredible meal where neighbors were sharing with each other, as well as sharing with these strangers who they had never met before. So this is what one of the students wrote to me, and she felt that the first class reminded her of the story of stone soup. She said, "That's how I see our group. We got space, equipment, support, bus tickets, lunch, and now people to bring the story to life and share with our neighbors. How good this soup will be." And that's really what happened. It started with the director of the Arts and Science Program, the current director, Jean Wilson, who went to a conference in 2010, learned about other universities who were doing similar programs across Canada, and thought that this is something we should really be doing at McMaster. She brought the idea back to a group of people on the McMaster Community Poverty Initiative, which I'm a part of as well. And little by little, it actually happened quite quickly. This idea became a reality. We got support from the Office of the President to hire a professor and myself as the coordinator. We got a student support team from McMaster Arts and Science Program, and all kinds of resources from the community, because everyone believed in this idea and wanted to make it happen. So the stone soup really needed everybody's input. The theme of the course was voicing Hamilton. So Dr. Daniel Coleman, he teaches in cultural studies and English, and he was the instructor of the course, and he designed the curriculum all about history, arts, and expression of the city we live in. So the idea is that the students in the class would be able to explore a history book, read a graphic novel, look at some photography and poetry, all about Hamilton. And in learning these different stories and different ways that people talk about our city or express our city, they would then do their own project about Hamilton and be able to use their own skills and passions to do that. So the Gore Park Fountain, you may recognize, one of the students actually drew that for the class, and it ended up being kind of one of our landmark images when we talked about voicing Hamilton. So before I get a little more into the course, I want to tell you about how I got here, because Hamilton is a really, really important part of my life. It is my home. It's the place that I love, especially downtown Hamilton in the Beasley neighborhood. So if you don't know what Beasley is, it's from James Street to Wellington Street downtown, from Main Street to the train tracks. So if you are thinking of landmarks, Gore Park is located in the Beasley neighborhood. This graffiti wall was one of the first impressions I had of downtown. I love it. I pass through it where I live. I can diagonally cross parking lots right from the library to my apartment. So I walk past that all the time. But when I entered McMaster in first year as an art sci student, it's hard to believe that 6 years ago, pretty much to this day, I was just about to finish my first year of undergrad. And I really didn't know much about the city. I had been downtown, and I was starting to like it, but I didn't know that I would engage so much in the neighborhood, in the community, and that it would become such an important part of my life. And one of my key experiences in first year was a tour that I got of downtown Hamilton. I used to write for Insight magazine, which some of you may have read. It's on campus, and we had these little articles called wanderings where you would wander somewhere and write about it. So one of the editors suggested that I do a wandering article about the Beasley neighborhood, which I had never heard of before. So I got a tour of Beasley. I learned not just what a lot of people say about it, which is that it's the poorest neighborhood in Hamilton, one of the poorest neighborhoods in the country. There's a lot of abandoned buildings and all this stuff, a lot of negativity. I also learned that there were a lot of people who care about the community who were doing really cool projects, and it made me want to get more engaged in my city as I went through undergrad. This is Beasley Park. So I started to come downtown a lot more often. I became part of the Beasley Neighbourhood Association because a couple of my good friends were part of that group and invited me to be part of it. I also started to volunteer at the Freeway Coffee House, and that's a cafe at King and Wellington, right downtown in the Beasley neighborhood. And through those experiences, I met a lot of wonderful friends, my downtown neighborhood friends, I call them. 3 of them here at the Freeway. Jenny, who's on your left, she is the most creative, generous, vibrant person I know. She's always making cards and crafts for people and sharing whatever she has created with others. One of the hardest parts, I think, about meeting all these amazing people downtown and learning so much from them and seeing how brilliant they are and how creative they are, and then being on campus in my classes, is that there was this disconnect and also this sense that people I was friends with downtown didn't seem to value their own knowledge as much as they valued mine, or as much as they valued someone's knowledge or someone who went to university or who had experienced higher education. And I thought that was wrong because I was learning so much from them and I was so inspired by them, and it made me quite disheartened about what is university about if it's creating this divide between people. It shouldn't be about that. So I tried my best in undergrad to integrate my community life with my university life, and the McMaster Discovery Program was kind of this perfect opportunity to keep doing that, and it just kind of fell into my life, which was absolutely amazing. So back to the Discovery Program. These are all the students. So this is actually this room that we took this photo. The graduation happened in December, so all of us met here and many of our supporters from the community came, and 18 students, adults in Hamilton, ended up graduating. And we came from all different backgrounds. The youngest students were in their mid-20s, the oldest were in their 70s, and came from all different walks of life. For example, there's a couple who lived in Colombia and came to Hamilton and wanted to learn more about the city and be able to share it with newcomers. There were many neighborhood activists, women who were passionate about their neighborhood and wanted to share what they learned in this course with other residents. There was a young man who had spent a lot of his life in and out of hospitals and treatment because he had a brain tumor when he was younger and hadn't had this kind of opportunity, and he discovered a newfound passion for photography. So I wish I could tell about everybody and their amazing passions and skills that they had, but I'll try to give you a glimpse of what came out of this class. So after the graduation, we ended up doing an exhibit of everybody's projects at the Freeway Coffee House in January. It turned out that a lot of people's expressions of Hamilton were very artistic, kind of visual representations. Some people decided to write essays or poems, make a video, do a photo essay. Others did painting. So these are some of the expressions that came out of the class. So one of our students is a painter as well as a poet, so she wrote a few poems and made these paintings about different ways of seeing the downtown, and she wanted to open her own eyes to what was out there as well as the eyes of other people. And one woman, she has Métis heritage, so she wanted to explore the history of the Native community in Hamilton and the story of European settlers coming here and building the city and what that meant for them in terms of losing a lot of their culture, but also this ongoing process of healing and reconciliation. So she represented that in this kind of deer-hide tapestry. Here's one of the residents of the McMaster neighborhood in the East End. She was so passionate about her community. She does a lot of community organizing and created a mixed media kind of collage looking at how McQuestion came to be, and she interviewed people in her neighborhood to learn about what they had to say about growing up there or living there and what they wanted for the future. The artist of this, My Walk Home, he actually painted the first picture of the library that you saw when I first started speaking. So he's quite a shy guy. He admitted that he didn't get out much. The one place he did go to all the time was the library. And on his 5-minute walk home, he found that he mostly looked at his feet. But by being part of Voicing Hamilton, he started to learn about all this history, all this culture, all these people, and prominent buildings that he had never paid attention to. So he painted the buildings on his walk home. And then the woman who wrote me the email about stone soup, she actually ended up making soup for us in our last class. She explored historical foods in Hamilton and made a lunch for us to share on the very last Saturday that we met at the library. And then she took photos and made kind of a collage in these windows that she put together at the end. So really, it was quite magical how it all came together. And what made it work is that everybody was contributing something from themselves, as well as being open to learning about the city and learning from each other. And Dr. Coleman, the professor, was not so much lecturing and imparting his wisdom on the students. We were all in a circle learning together. So one of the core values, I think, that prompted this course to happen was the idea of access to knowledge, that too often knowledge is contained or valued in a certain way. So we have tons of knowledge held at this university that often isn't accessible to people. Also the idea that knowledge is about engaging with people and engaging with the world, and we need to be constantly learning and recreating knowledge with each other. Listening was huge, a huge part of this experience. It took a lot of listening to figure out how this course would work and working with all the community partners to put it together, but also once the course started, it was so much about listening to each other and believing that we all had something important to say, because too often people lose confidence when they don't feel like they have a voice and they don't feel listened to. And a lot of people's creativity was tapped, and their potential, they got to see that they actually do have potential to do something amazing. And this is actually what one of the students wrote to me in an email, and I think it really sums up this point of listening. Seeing people come out of their shell, including me, was one of the most beautiful things I've ever experienced. It was humbling and raw. I achieved the goals I set out for myself. I met some incredible people and will always look to this course as a launching pad for personal rejuvenation and appreciation of my abilities to contribute to the city, my now larger circle of acquaintances, my family, and myself. Valuing people, valuing place. I talked a bit about feeling like people I were meeting in downtown Hamilton, friends I was making, didn't feel like they were as valuable as some others who had maybe had more education than them or more money than them. And this course was all about valuing everybody for what they had to bring. And a lot of the students talked about not feeling respected very much in their lives, but that they felt a great sense of respect in the class, that the support team respected them, that the instructor respected them, and they respected each other. And that sense of respect, as one of the students wrote, allowed us, like children, to grow, to spread our wings, to give respect back, to find out who we are in relationship with this urban area we call Hamilton. And obviously, we valued place a lot in this course. It was all about Hamilton, and by learning about these stories, by reading literature and history and exploring works of art, we found a new sense of home and began to see the city with new eyes. So I'm gonna just read this quote that I think sums up beautifully what it meant to this student. Remember when I wrote about Hamilton being a city of firsts? I also count this project as being a first for Hamilton. I sincerely hope that it's the beginning of something wonderful that will grow and allow more people to experience what being valued means. And I think all of these things, listening, valuing people, valuing place, access to knowledge, comes together with an idea of mutuality, a give and take, sharing and listening, creating. And McMaster, it wasn't just about a one-way thing where McMaster's doing some kind of outreach to the Hamilton community, where we were giving our resources and knowledge and time to the people in Hamilton. We needed the Discovery Program, and we still need it, because we need to be reminded that everyone has something of value to share with us, and that there's a lot of knowledge and experience and richness in the city that we're a part of, that we need to be reminded of. Falling into Place is actually one of the books that we read by John Terpstra. We read that in the class, and I highly recommend it if you want to learn more about the city and kind of fall into place with it. So I'm going to leave us with this image of everybody sitting at a table. This is at one of our barbecues that we have in Beasley Park. And what I really sensed from the beginning to the end to now, as we continue, as I keep in touch with the students of the class, as we plan for the next course of the McMaster Discovery Program, is that what we've created is a place of welcome, where everyone has a seat at the table and where everyone matters. So I'm just going to end with this, the students express ideas way better than I could, so I'm going to read what one of the students wrote to me. Voicing Hamilton was a tacit set of genius principles: provide tangible information in a way that inspires curiosity and love, and let us do with it as we will. Voicing Hamilton can only be measured by its current success. By providing such a non-judgmental format and encouraging inclusiveness, it did something that academic programs are supposed to do. With knowledge and compassion, it gave out power, a power that manifested itself in such a level of individual successes the entire group benefited, and the circle continues. Thank you.